In this lesson, we're going to have an overview of the function of the nephron. So recall from the previous lesson that we mentioned the nephron is simply a filtering unit in the kidney, and it performs three large functions. At this region here, it performs the role of filtration, where it filters all substances out of the blood, including wastes and also beneficial products like glucose and amino acids. This filtrate, containing both the good and the bad, will then travel through this convoluted system of tubules. And at this region here, we have the process of reabsorption occurring, as noted in this box. Here we'd like to reabsorb all our nutrients like glucose and amino acids. We then have reabsorption continuing here. In this structure, do we see the loop arrangement? This is called the loop of Henle. And it's important to note, in the descending limb of the loop of Henle, we have the reabsorption of water. And in the ascending limb, we have the reabsorption of sodium. Now we're going to come back and flesh all of this in detail. Just understand this is an overview. We then reach another system of convoluted tubules. Now here, unlike reabsorption, in this section, we have secretion occurring. Very high yield to note this, big student misconception. Secretion involves substances being secreted into the nephron. Secretion is the movement of substances into the nephron. The main substance you'd like to secrete into this nephron include your waste products like urea, which is the main waste product in the bloodstream. Urea is a waste product that's produced from the breakdown of proteins in the body. We'd also like to secrete drugs, acids, and other toxins out of the bloodstream here. Finally, at this point, you've reached a filtrate that is very low in nutrients, very high in toxins and wastes. So at here, we can say this is a pre-modified form of urine, which is going to be modified as it travels through this long duct here. This long duct is known as a collecting duct, and it's so important to note the main process occurring at the collecting duct is the reabsorption of water. So to sum it up, we have filtration occurring at this section here. We have reabsorption occurring at this section, all through here, and then secretion into the nephron occurring here, and finally the reabsorption of water here. Now let's have a zoomed in look at the first structure. So this is simply this capsule and its associated blood vessels, and we're going to start labeling things. So the system of capillaries you see here is known as a glomerulus. Now what happens is blood rushes through these blood vessels at high pressure, and it's forcing all the nutrients and waste products out at this section. So here we can say filtration occurs. And the entire filtrate, which is the end composition of all the substances that moves out, empties into this capsule-like structure known as the Bowman's capsule. So very important to note, filtration occurs here, and everything moves across. Your waste products, your ions, water, even the nutritional products, including glucose and amino acids. So examiners love to test what doesn't pass out of this capillary network, which is a glomerulus. The two substances that do not move out of the glomerulus are the red blood cells and the protein. And that makes sense because we don't see blood in our urine, which is going to be the end location of this filtrate. You also don't want too much protein moving out. And too much protein in the urine is a sign of dysfunction in filtration. And it could happen if the glomerulus is damaged as a result of diabetes or high blood pressure, for example. The next process we have going on is reabsorption. Now, do you remember where we said reabsorption occurs? So it's the proximal convoluted tubule. Remember, we said the tubule is convoluted here, and we call it proximal because it's close to the glomerulus. Hence, this would be called the distal convoluted tubule. So as we mentioned, reabsorption occurs here. Now, we reabsorb ions and water passively, meaning it requires no energy, and it's absorbed until there are equal concentrations both in and out of the nephron. However, we have two substances that are reabsorbed actively here. The two key substances that are reabsorbed actively, requiring energy and hence 100% taken out of this proximal convoluted tubule, are your glucose and amino acids. And this makes sense because your body needs amino acids for transcription and translation, and it needs glucose to undergo cellular respiration and produce ATP. Now recall, descending limb of the loop of Henle is water reabsorption, and the ascending limb is sodium reabsorption. Now recall, secretion is into the nephron, and this occurs at the distal convoluted tubule. And all these substances are secreted into the nephron. This includes your waste products such as urea, but also includes other drugs, toxins, and acids. Finally, we reach this long duct, and recall in the long duct, the main substance that is reabsorbed is water. And this is under the action of hormones. And this is why, when you're dehydrated on a hot day, you see concentrated small volumes of urine. Because hormones act on the collecting duct to reabsorb more water and hence produce a small volume of yellow urine. Contrast that to if you consume 6 liters of water in that day. Hormones will then not act at this region, you will not absorb water, and hence the urine composition will be large volumes of dilute clear urine. Good. And this is exactly what we've mentioned here. Descending limb is water reabsorption, ascending limb is sodium reabsorption. And here is a final overview of the key facts we need to know. And this is what often comes up in exam style questions with regards to kidney function. So I've shown here that all amino acids and glucose are reabsorbed. Water is reabsorbed in the descending limb of the loop of Henle. In the ascending limb, it's sodium. In the distal convoluted tubule, the key point is that waste products pile up into the nephron so they can be eliminated via urine. And at the collecting duct I've shown you here, we have water reabsorption, and the hormone that controls this is known as antidiuretic hormone. The roles of these two hormones aren't required to be known for the current syllabus, however they can ask you an application question on this. And that concludes the function of the nephron.